Alright, I'm gonna talk a bit about I keep fucking up though, and I keep going to a new tab, and it's starting to piss me off. So I use different hardware for Linux, and I don't want to have to repeat this again, but I have to keep re-recording because I keep my browser's fucked up right now. I don't know what's wrong with it, but basically I use different hardware to because I don't want to like pass a VM in Windows, and I want all my hardware to be like purely Linux compatible. And there's one that I can't really find that's like some generic capture card, but I will tell you what you can buy instead. So what I use for my computer case is because I don't want to deal with RGB. I don't like RGB. I don't want it in my bedroom. My computer sits in a corner of my room and basically, sits there. And it looks like a black box, so it matches all my furniture. So I actually use this case, but I use the quote metal edition. It's the Fractal Meshify design or Fractal Design Meshify C. And I had gotten the metal edition because I didn't want to have to match my computer parts to make it look good. I don't keep my computer to the right side of me, which means I never see it, so it didn't make sense to have tempered glass or acrylic, and I found that tempered glass and acrylic scratch really easily, and it just doesn't look good. So I got a I got this case and it fits all my stuff and it's easy to build in. It was a bit easier to build in than my uh Fantex Enthru Pro M, which I had back in the day. That was like my first real computer case after the Antec Super Landboy. So I used that, and that skips all the RGB nonsense. The CPU cooler I've got, I ended up going with a Noctua DH15 because I didn't like having to control. I don't like that AIOs generally have like Windows only control systems. It makes it annoying to deal with. I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't like having to set fan curve like that. I want everything to be done in the BIOS controlled by the motherboard. And air coolers, I didn't really need a water cooler for anything because I don't really overclock. So I got the DH15 because my CPU didn't have a cooler at the time. Because I had a Ryzen 1800X when I built this machine. And the DH15 is nice, it's pretty quiet, so that's cool. And then the graphics card I had, I just didn't put the ARGB header in because it my motherboard doesn't have a spot for it, but I also just wanted to turn off all the RGB. So it's cool having a metal case because you don't get any RGB. Same thing with my motherboard, which is a Gigabyte X470 Aorus. It has some RGB, but I can't see it through the metal. For my microphone setup, though, when I'm using, I got the second hand. It's a PreSonus AudioBox USB 96, and I picked it up for like 40 bucks. Uh, and I got a Shure Beta 87 to hook up to it. I used to use a SMB 98 or something. It was like some budget Shure microphone, but I upgraded to a slightly better one. I do want another microphone. I mean, mine sounds fine. It's about as good as it's gonna get. I'm just like high all the time. Not literally, but I kind of slur my words a bit because of a medication. So it makes sense to. I mean, I just have a decent microphone and I don't really give a shit. But I set the gain all the way up and I still have to set microphone gain within either Windows or Linux. And on Windows, that's really fucking annoying because they no longer have microphone boost. So I have to download a program called Peace Equal, or no, I have to download Equalizer APO because I also need to mix down to mono because this interface with an XLR mic will record to the left channel only. So in OBS, you can just set it to mono, and that's what I do in Linux because Discord can pick up and mix down to mono. But on Windows, I have to use Equalizer APO to get it outside of OBS, which is annoying. Now, this one does have spots for monitors with TRS, but I already have monitors and I didn't get any monitors with this, and I wanted better ones. So I actually put this below it because I used to use headphones more often, and it's the Shure Modius and Jotunheim. This is the older one that has micro USB, but who gives a shit? USB C is nice, but I don't necessarily need it. But I don't really use headphones much anymore, but I have a set of custom modded fill phones that I keep in a box right now because I don't really use them. And basically, this on the back, because the Jotunheim is also a preamp. So what I do is I hook up my KRK Rocket 8s, which have a equalizer menu on the back. So you download an app on your phone and it tries to tune it to your room, and then it just tells you what equalizer settings to apply. And with monitors, you do need to have some EQ because everybody's room is different. So you just usually do that in software, but I like that it doesn't on hardware because it means it's always set up no matter what. But below that, though, below the audio box and above the Jotunheim, I have a just a random Blu-ray drive. That's the one I have, is the LG one. I got it on eBay back when you had to pay like $70 for a external Blu-ray drive, and you may still have to. I don't know, but it's nice. It works. So I usually use it just to watch DVDs now. Whenever people give me DVDs. I do have a RISC-V development board, the Litchi Pi 4A, so I use a KVM in order to switch between devices. And these three USB ports, I keep a keyboard, mouse, and the ship Modius in there, so that way I can get audio on the RISC-V board. And I like it because it has a little button over here, because I keep this near my computer, and I just run all the cables to that, and then I keep this on my desk so I can swap between them. So that's a nice feature to have. I use a keyboard, and obviously, but uh, what happened was I didn't want a mechanical keyboard anymore. I got really tired of mechanical keyboards because either I beat the hell out of them or something, or I clean them wrong or something, but the switches always seem to fail within like a few months of use. I'll have like my I key starts chattering and I have to send it in, or I have to replace the switches, and it's hard to get exact Keychron switches, so I'd have to replace it with MX Blues, and at that point I'd rather just swap out every switch to something I know I can get. So it's really annoying. Uh, but the model, or what I also wanted was, hang on a second. I also wanted a keyboard that didn't have like proprietary or annoying software to set everything up. So what happened was I looked at like the System 76 keyboard, which again mechanical. So but they had like a weird, it's not QMK, it's not VIA. And so you have to set everything up with their software, which is kind of weird to me, and it uses like a Chromium Web UI. I don't know. I wasn't feeling it, and I didn't really want to mess with anything. So I was like, okay, no RGB unless it's like on board. I don't want to control anything with Windows software. I don't want to have to configure anything. So, and I got tired of mechanical keyboards, so I went with the Model M. And other than the Matrix not being perfect for gaming, it does have decent reliability. I think this thing will survive a long while. So that's cool. And I've had it for a year or so now. So it's a nice keyboard. And I like it because it doesn't, there's no Windows software to control it. It's just all done on the board, which is nice. For the mouse, though, I have several mice that are all configurable on Linux, but this is the one I use right now because I mostly do point and click stuff right now. And it's the Zowie FK2. It's a cheap little BenQ mouse, but it has a good sensor, and again, no software to control it, so I don't have to pass anything through to Windows. It's all good. And what that means is when if you need to change like the DPI, you just hit a button on it and it just works. So that's nice for if you don't want to have to fuck around with anything, because especially now that I have RISC-V, I need stuff that will work on the computer that may not have stuff like like configuration software that I can't run Windows on or anything. So I like having my stuff on board. If you can't tell, I like that. That's my case. This is the scanner I've got. It's the Canon LP300i. I just picked it up at Micro Center. Didn't even. It was for my mom, so I didn't assume it would have Linux support or anything, but it turns out it was great on Linux. It uses the driver called Pixma. So if you're manually compiling the software for scanners, I forget what it's called, you will need to pass the Pixma flag in order to build support for these type of scanners. But it's a little USB scanner, and it just hooks up to your computer and it scans things. So I use it for like documents if I need to like scan my ID or something. I ended up getting this printer because it was like $50 back when I got it. It's the Brother HLL 2300D, and this is a legacy Brother printer, which is kind of annoying because it uses somebody wrote a program called BR Laser, which helps with these legacy Brother printers. It doesn't always work on every distribution, but it generally works and it's generally packaged, so that's nice. But if I were to go back in time, I would have told myself to get the network printer because then I wouldn't have to deal with drivers ever, and that would have made a lot more sense. I did, however, find some toner for this thing. I got like four boxes of toner from a thrift store for like $5 a piece, so I have toner for the rest of my fucking life, which is nice. And I use this Wi-Fi card again. I just picked it up because I needed Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I didn't even know if it would work on Linux because I didn't think about it at the time. But Wi-Fi cards are pretty good about having Linux support nowadays. They should just work. This one's got a nice antenna. It's got good signal. It's got good Bluetooth, which is nice because that's mostly what I got it for was as a Bluetooth card because I don't really use Wi-Fi much unless it's like as a fallback and let in case my home network is down and I want to connect to somebody else's that may have power. Because that's what my dad's always saying is he uses somebody else's Wi-Fi like for Comcast whenever ours is down. But this thing works on Linux just fine. That's great. And I use a capture card. Somebody had actually sent me it in the mail. I said, "Oh yeah, I need a HDMI capture card," and he said, "Oh, I've got one. You can just have it." So he sent it to me, and it was like some Wang Hung Lo no name graphics card or capture card. And what I did with it, I just hooked it up, and Linux, it turns out, is really good at recognizing capture cards because I thought it was gonna need like a Magewell or something. But it turns out most no name capture cards are basically webcams, and so they they show up as like a webcam in Linux, and they come with like a microphone input for audio as well as the camera shows up as like a virtual camera, which is cool. So that's kind of what I do on Linux right now. That's my general setup. Like computer parts are pretty standard. I mean, other than all this stuff, I did get a that 3090 I got recently has like been the most pain in the ass thing I've had to deal with besides like my 3D printer, which the I need to like run a desktop or a distro that comes with GNOME because it relies on GTK WebKit, which is incorrectly packaged for this app image on like every distro except Ubuntu. It's so annoying. But yeah, if you're wondering like what I do to keep my setup pretty Linux friendly, that's what I do. I don't fuck with RGB. I don't fuck with anything that has Windows control software because my webcam, actually, I don't even know what to recommend for a webcam. I actually ended up getting one on recommendation of somebody else because it was like $14, and the one I had bought required Windows software to make it look even remotely decent. So it's kind of luck of the draw with that because a lot of them you do want to be able to edit them, but most of them you're not going to be able to do it on Linux, as far as I know. So you got to get one that has the right exposure and all that by default and just looks half decent so that you're not so that you don't or so that you can actually see yourself because the one I had for some reason like the lighting was really off, and yeah, I had to just return it, like, or I forget what I do with it. I think what do they have to do to it? And Logitechs were generally pretty good about that even though they look like garbage. But I mean, $14 for a 1440p webcam was pretty nice. All right, thanks.